Welcome back to our program. This segment brought to you by Games and Things. Sports have returned. Football has returned. That means it's time to lean back and relax on the weekends in new home theater seats from Games and Things. They got a monstrous selection, all the big names, terrific prices. I bought 2 home theater seats down there this past year, as a matter of fact, this last fall, and they've been great. I've enjoyed the heck out of them, and they do everything in terms of bar stools. I've told you before, the bar stools on this set have been through about 4 different sets in terms of looks for our show. These came from Games and Things 18 years ago when we first started the show. So Games and Things, not only do they sell great quality items, the items last. Games and Things, get down and check them out in West Knoxville or visit them online at ourgameroom.com. All right. The NCAA announced this week that the college basketball season is going to be starting a little later, and it's going to be a little shorter. November 25th is the first time that anybody can hit the court. That's about a month later than usual. The minimum number of games to make the NCAA tournament this year, 13. They're building in a lot of missed games, it sounds like. If you only have to play 13 games to somehow qualify for the NCAA tournament, that's quite a statement. Usually the minimum number is 25. So they've also placed a maximum. The maximum number of games is 25, 27 if you play in a preseason tournament. Tennessee, of course, was scheduled to be in the Charleston Classic this year, an 8-team tournament. That is ESPN run, so it may wind up being played. It may move, but it's up in the air right now. In terms of Tennessee's schedule, they had at Wisconsin, Presbyterian, and Tennessee Tech on the docket and the Charleston Classic before November 25th. Okay, so you lop those out. You got to get down to a 25-game maximum schedule, 27 if they wind up in a tournament. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. My question for you, do you think this has any kind of negative impact on Tennessee? We don't know exactly what the schedule is going to be, but we do know it looked like it was going to be tough. Charleston Classic, Wisconsin, that helps your rankings in terms of getting seeding. This is supposed to be a good Tennessee team. Any concerns that now that's being cut down, or do you look at it and say, it plays the same for everybody?
I actually look at it as a potential advantage for Tennessee.
Okay.
And the reason is because Rick Barnes, as Tennessee's head coach, is going to have more connections to try to get things figured out from a scheduling standpoint than other schools. I think mid-major schools could run into a real problem here. But as there's some talk, at least right now, of maybe some school sites hosting some kind of bubble event that's been brought up at a number of different spots, Tennessee, I think, would have a better chance of getting in there, and that's probably going to have some quality opponents. So I would trust that Rick Barnes and his staff have a better chance of working things out than some other coaches who don't have as much experience and as many connections.
I would agree with that. I don't think Tennessee is going to reschedule Wisconsin this year. I think it's more likely to be next year, but I do think that Tennessee can find some other games if they want to, or like Louisville's talking about this bubble, and Tennessee could be one of those teams there. Maybe Duke looking at the same thing. So I think schedule-wise they'll be fine. And I also, and we were just talking about scheduling, but if you look at the veterans on this Tennessee team, I don't think being thrown some adversity along the way is going to hurt this team. I think it may hurt some teams that rely more on freshmen to play because of the unknown that you've got going forward. But I think Tennessee's got such a veteran team with a veteran staff, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here thinking back to the SEC tournament. The last time we saw college basketball, and that one night, as crazy as this year has been, I'm just thankful we're hoping there's going to be college basketball around Thanksgiving. I mean, a lot of times they were looking or talking maybe not until after January 1st. Yeah. So to me, just having it and the chance to play, got a lot of questions about how they're going to do it, and I think they do too. How many fans? How are we going to do this? Travel, other things. They can work those out, we hope. But just thankful that you're going to have college basketball around Thanksgiving.
Well, and I'll be honest with you. I know that college basketball fans will scream, no, more games are better. I think that the schedule has had some serious creep over the years. I mean, you've gotten back into October in recent years. I don't mind this starting at Thanksgiving. To be honest with you, I wouldn't mind it starting in December. I just let football kind of wind down and then go into basketball. The overlap for me, and I'm not talking about from a media perspective, but just as a fan, I don't really start diving into basketball until football is done. So it's like, oh yeah, I've got to go watch that basketball game.
Yeah, especially this year. I mean, the Big Ten's not starting until October 24th,
Right.
and the Pac-12 potentially Halloween weekend. So you have an even later start. You have a later start for everybody, but even some still to go.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting deal. I do think, though, you bring up a great point with Rick Barnes. You know, in some ways, the veteran stuff could be a positive factor. Certainly, the more experience you have, more stuff you've handled, maybe you can take care of this better than a young coach. At the same time, I think guys who aren't set in their ways may have an advantage to this. Now, I don't think that Rick Barnes seems to be a guy who is one of those that's set in his ways.
Mm-hmm.
We do it like X, and that's the way it's going to be. He seems to be a guy that's willing to bend a little bit with the wind. So I think that would be a good thing. In terms of Tennessee's prospects in the SEC, we're talking a shorter non-conference. Any reason to believe that's less warm-up time? You know, you're not firing on the full number of cylinders that you would be normally. Any concerns about that, or no? Plays the same for everybody.
Yeah, it is the same for everybody, but I'll go back to where I think that if you have a veteran team, that it's probably helpful to you. I think it may have a greater impact on a team like Kentucky that relies typically on 5 freshmen every year. So I think from Tennessee's perspective, with the veterans that they have, and there's a mixture of youth with veterans, I think Tennessee will be in great shape in that regard. And looking forward to seeing them. I saw where Blue Ribbon had them a preseason number 5 in the country. I think Kentucky was 13, if I remember right. That's pretty high for Tennessee in the preseason.
And-
I don't remember seeing that very often.
And with a coach like Rick Barnes, don't you like the aspect of having more practice time? Don't you like that you're going to have X number of practices before you actually take the floor for a game? I think it works in Tennessee's favor. I really do.
Have to keep an eye on the preseason tournament deal to see what happens with Charleston, to see what Tennessee does there. You've already had some of these tournaments, like Atlantis, have decided they're going to go play in, it's like Butte, Montana or somewhere. I forget, one is moving to Asheville. The Maui Invitational is moving to Asheville, North Carolina this year. So it'll be interesting to see if Charleston gets played, if it's in Charleston or if it goes somewhere else. But obviously, keep it tuned to these guys during the week, and we'll tell you about it right here if it changes on the television show. When we come back, key matchups for Saturday's game, Tennessee, South Carolina. What matchups are you going to be watching that are going to tell us the tale of the tape in this game? What matchups are you going to be watching, because this may give us a good sense of where this team is going forward? We'll discuss all that next on the Sports Source. Come on back.